Tonight we are stepping into stone shadows and oil-lit corners, where the cobbled streets of a forgotten medieval town sleep beneath a sky of wool and dark. The air outside your window is still, save for the creak of a shutter and the slow tick of a handmade clock. Your tea is cooling on the windowsill. The candle beside your bed gutters once, as if nodding, and somewhere, in the folds of this old town silence, something stirs that doesn't belong to daylight. Tonight is not for work, not for war. Tonight is for wandering, and you're just awake enough to notice the shimmer in the street below. Because something is calling. You may never know the end of this story, and that's okay. You may drift off before the market opens, or just as it closes. Either way, the night is patient. If you like this space and want to see me again on future nights, please like and follow. We have many more nights to tell stories together. Leave a little note below, your town, your local time. Let's build our own quiet market of sleepy minds. Now pull the blanket up to your chin, soften your breath, and let's go. Blank, underscore, blank. You wake standing, or perhaps you never fell asleep. It's hard to tell when the world is this quiet. Not silent, there's a difference. Silence is still, but this is the kind of quiet that listens. The stone beneath your feet is warm from the day. Though the sun is long gone, your shadow stretches long behind you, cast by the glow of a single lantern swaying on a crooked hook beside a gate you don't remember seeing before. You glance behind. Your home is gone, or perhaps it never followed you here. Ahead, the gate stands open, one iron hinge groaning gently with each breeze. Above it, an old carving worn nearly smooth by time, faint figures. Maybe animals, maybe merchants, maybe moons. You pass through. No guards, no signs, just a soft breeze that smells faintly of sweet bread and thyme. Beyond the gate, a narrow lane curves downward like a trickle of ink spilled from a quill. You follow it. The stones underfoot are mismatched, some flat, some raised, some polished by centuries of bare soles. The walls on either side lean slightly inward, crowding the sky into a ribbon overhead. That's when you hear it, the sound of a wheel, one wooden wheel, turning slowly, then another, and a laugh muffled by distance, and a low murmur, like bees that have learned to whisper. You turn a corner, and suddenly the path spills out into a square you've never seen on any map. It's not lit like a modern market, nor dark like an alley. It glows, gently, as if lit from beneath by memory. Lanterns sway from thin ropes strung between old timber beams. No two are the same. Some are brass, some are horn, some are no more than glass bottles stuffed with fireflies that do not blink. And beneath them, a market, not bustling, breathing, stalls assembled from old crates, shawls, barrels, silk, wheels, and sometimes, curiously, nothing at all. You pass one held up only by air, its posts hovering an inch above the cobblestones. A man snoozes beside it, his snores rhythmic, a cat curled on his chest. The people here do not shout their wares. They nod, they beckon, they smile in that way that says, I know something I'm not telling. But you're welcome to guess. You pause, not because of fear, because of recognition. You've been here before, not in memory, but in dream. You take a step forward, then another. A woman selling folded papers smiles at you. The parchment glows faintly. The ink dances, literally, fortunes that edit themselves if you lie, she says, not unkindly. You pass by a stall where herbs hang upside down, but only the ones still dreaming. The rest have been turned to powders that shimmer gold when the wind passes through. You see no coins change hands. A man gives up a glove to receive a vial. A child trades a hair ribbon for a glowing beetle. The rules here are older than laws, and maybe more honest. You stop beside a cart selling spoons, wooden ones, each with a tiny carving at the handle, a star, a wolf, a crow, a spiral. The vendor leans in. They stir only what you intend. He says, not always what you want. You move on. The deeper into the market you go, the more the cobblestones shimmer, not visibly, not exactly, but in your step. Your body begins to walk with the rhythm of the place, as if your own pulse aligns with the heartbeat of the town. A juggler tosses 3 apples into the air. Only 2 come down. You blink, he winks, and the last apple lands on your shoulder. Still warm, still whole. You leave it there. A bell rings once, low and sweet, not to signal an hour, to signal a moment. Around you, no one rushes, no one leaves, but something shifts. The night is beginning. You step forward, and a vendor calls softly. First time, you nod. She lifts a hand. Then be careful. Some things you find, you keep, but others find you, and they don't leave quietly. You smile, not out of confidence, out of curiosity, because if you're honest, you don't want to leave quietly either. The ground beneath your feet changes, just slightly. The stones give way to packed earth, drier here, and warmer, as if the heat of 1,000 footsteps has softened it. You glance up and notice that the lanterns are different now. They glow redder, deeper, as if they've been burning longer. Some of them don't hang at all, but float, slowly turning above the stalls like lazy stars caught in cobwebs of trade. The market seems to spiral outward from a center you can't yet see. Every path winds a little, bends just enough to disorient without frightening. It's not a maze, it's a dance, and you're already in it. You follow the scent of something roasted, meaty, savory, spiced with something you can't name but recognize. A food from a memory you never lived. A man with a heavy apron and a smile that's older than his waves you over. On his table are cuts of something. No labels, no signs, just textures, and glazes, and quiet steam. You look like someone who's never tried dusk-roasted moonlit. He says. You hesitate. He nods. Wise. It's not for first-timers. But this. He lifts a skewer with something small, blackened, and fragrant. This you can handle. You take it. It tastes like the inside of a secret. Smoky, warm, and gone before you finished exhaling. He gives you a second. Doesn't charge. Newcomers eat for memory, he says. Returners eat for forgetting. You step back into the flow of the market. It hums around you, now a little louder, as if it's starting to speak more clearly. You hear fragments of conversation as you pass. The key is knowing when to haggle with silence. Told him it wasn't a real compass. But did he listen? Now he's in Bremen. Don't trust a seller with clean hands. You duck under a canopy hung low with bottles, glass bottles, ceramic bottles, bottles made from dried gourds, and one made of what appears to be folded parchment. Each is labeled in a language that changes when you squint at it. One glows faintly blue, another emits a soft purring sound. A small woman with a bandaged thumb grins at you. They don't do anything to you, she says. They just let the truth in. You nod, though you're not entirely sure what that means, and move along as you pass a stall draped in silks, each patterned with symbols you feel in your spine. You catch a glimpse of a map. Not a usual one, no borders, no land, just stars, but not constellations, you know. These are patterns made of names, emotions, forgotten songs, and somehow, looking at it, you know where you are. Not physically, existentially. You step closer, but the vendor, an elderly man with a monocle stitched to his hood, shakes his head. You're not ready to read your direction yet, he says kindly. First, lose your destination, so you keep walking. Further in, the stalls get stranger. One sells only keys, thousands of them, none of which match any lock you've ever seen. Another has stacks of empty books, their titles written only on the spines in ink that moves. They write themselves when you dream. The vendor explains. You reach a stall where a boy is sketching portraits of people who haven't arrived yet. One of the drawings looks disturbingly like your cousin. The boy notices your glance and says, "He'll be here in 3 nights. He's looking for a compass that tells him what not to do." You want to ask more, but you don't. You keep moving. There's music now, soft, hollow. It seems to drift not from instruments but from the fabric of the tents themselves. As if the woven threads of canvas hum a lullaby when the wind passes just right. You sit for a moment on a low stone bench that wasn't there a second ago. It's smoother than it should be, and warm, like someone just left it. A small cat, gray with a white spiral on its forehead, jumps onto your lap. It purrs once, loudly, then leaps off, vanishing behind a row of glowing candles arranged in a spiral. You follow the spiral. At its center is a small stall, barely a booth, a low table, a chair, and a woman wearing a scarf that glows like fog in moonlight. She gestures for you to sit. You do. She doesn't ask your name. Instead, she places 3 objects on the table. A candle that hasn't been lit in centuries. A feather from a bird that doesn't exist anymore. And a stone with something faintly scratched on its face. Maybe a word. Maybe a symbol. She looks at you. 1, she says. Just 1. Choose what you want more of. You stare at the objects, and something inside you knows. The candle means clarity, the feather, freedom, the stone, protection. You reach out, touch 1, she nods, wraps it in a cloth, hands it to you. No refunds, she says with a smile. You don't ask if it's real. Nothing here is real, but everything is true. You walk again. And now, for the first time, you see the market center. A round space, open to the sky, no stalls, no vendors, just people. Some sit in circles, some lie on their backs watching stars. One man dances slowly with no music. A girl carves words into the dirt and watches them vanish. A woman cries softly, not from sadness, but from remembering something beautiful too late. You sit. Someone hands you tea. It tastes like every conversation you wish you hadn't ended. A breeze moves through. You close your eyes, and the market breathes with you. Your eyes flutter open, not because of sound, but because of stillness. A hush has fallen over the market, a quiet too intentional to be natural. Around you, the last of the traders are shuttering their stalls. Candles dim themselves, As though sighing, the air cools, touched by a mist that wasn't there before, curling at your ankles like curious cats. You stand, knees slightly stiff from sitting too long. Your hand still clutches the wrapped object you were given, heavy now. Or perhaps simply more known. You slide it into the folds of your robe, careful not to jostle it. You are beginning to understand that here, objects carry memory like they carry weight. To your left, a narrow path opens. Was it always there, lit by lanterns shaped like crescent moons? Each swaying gently as though breathing in rhythm. You walk toward them, drawn not by purpose but by presence. The path winds toward a covered alley of old timber and hanging herbs. Dried lavender, thyme, marjoram, and bundles of cinnamon bark sway gently in the air. Their scent is calming but sharp, like advice from someone you trust. A sign overhead reads, not in words, but in feeling, the apothecary of dreams. Inside, shelves are stacked floor to ceiling with jars, not just herbs, but memories. You can feel it, jars filled with giggles, sighs, unfinished lullabies, the hush after a question no one answered. A figure moves behind the counter, too quickly to catch in full. When they finally stand still, you realize they are both very old and very young, like a candle with two flames. I don't sell cures, the figure says, voice like petals on parchment. Only truths, and even then, only the ones you'll let bloom. They hand you a small vial. It's empty. Come back when it's full. They say, you step out again, vial in hand, unsure of what to do with it. But somehow, you feel taller, straighter, as though you've just remembered a dream from 10 years ago and realized you never stopped living it. The mist thickens, and the path leads you through arches made of bones, not human. You think, but large, hollow, like the ribs of a forgotten creature whose name was once a prayer. The arches pulse faintly, like they remember being alive. On the other side, the market changes again. Gone are the stalls, gone are the vendors. You're now in the midnight arcade. Not games, not tricks, but doors. Dozens, no, hundreds of doors, all different. Some carved, some painted, some made of woven reeds or iron lattice. Each door is closed. Each one has a single word scratched into its center. Memory, regret, laughter, hunger. You don't touch any of them. Not yet. At the far end stands one door made of mirror, except it reflects not you, but a version of you who never stopped at the roasted moonlit stall, who never touched the candle, feather, or stone, who turned back. That version stares at you. Blinking slowly, they raise their hand. You don't. You pass it, and reach the final door. It says cost, and you know it's meant to be opened, but not by hand. You lean forward, rest your forehead against it. A whisper leaks from the wood. What are you willing to leave behind? You think of names, faces, the scent of the roasted skewer, the rippled blow of the bowl of sound, the woman with the scarf like moon fog. Then you whisper back, the illusion that I ever needed to know everything. The door opens, and on the other side is not light, but warmth, a bathhouse, not grand, not marble, but modest, quiet. The walls are stone, the floors are worn with decades of wet feet. A pool blows faintly, heated by rocks that hum low melodies. You undress, set the vial on a bench, and step in. The water embraces you. It smells faintly of rosemary and ash. It's hotter than you expect but not scalding. Like truth, it startles, then soothes. Across from you sits an elderly woman with a crooked braid and the posture of a queen. She's rubbing a stone across her feet and does not look up when she says, "The market never closes, it just shifts." You nod. She finally looks up, smiles. "Did you find what you weren't looking for?" You answer without thinking. "I remembered what I didn't know I'd forgotten." "Good," she says, splashing water lightly. "Then the toll was worth it." You soak in silence. Time dissolves. Muscles unspool. The room fogs with steam and meaning. Then a voice, your voice, somewhere in your mind, asks one last question. "What was this all for?" And the woman replies, "Sleep." You close your eyes. The water pulses once, and everything fades, not to black, but to soft, like a market stall that's just been covered for the night, waiting, always, for morning. The mist is thicker now. You rise from the bath not because you're cold or done, but because something, somewhere, calls. You gather your robe, your empty vial, and the silence that now clings to you like a second skin. The woman with the braid is gone. So is the water. You look back once, and the room has vanished entirely. No door, no pool, only an old bench and a single wet footprint, yours. You step back into the night, but the night has changed. You are still in the market, but not the one you remember. The lamps now glow blue. The tents have become archways. Stalls turned into alcoves. The stars overhead have multiplied, and the constellations have shifted. Historians would say that's impossible, that the stars are fixed. But the people who walk through this place now don't look up for answers. They look down, as if truth rises up from the earth, not down from the sky. You walk past a boy carving symbols into loaves of bread, not decoration, warnings, for the traveler who forgets their own path. One says, you consider asking him what yours would say, but you already know, don't eat this. A woman selling ribbons smiles at you too knowingly. Don't tie it to someone, she says, tie it to a mistake. That way, you won't make the same one twice. You take one, saffron-colored, and wrap it around your wrist. It smells like time and grief. Further down, you pass a man with 6 clocks. None tick, each tells a different hour. All incorrect. He polishes one with a torn page from a book. You try to read the words. They shift like fish. You blink. The man says, all time is wrong, except sleep. You nod. You keep walking. Now, the air begins to hum. Not loud, not jarring, like the echo of something far away and very large breathing in. You follow the sound, and it leads you to a tent made of dark velvet. No name, no guards, just an open flap and the faint smell of ink. You duck inside. It's a scriptory, not a bookstore, not a library, but a place where stories write themselves. Pages flutter in the air, rearranging, quills dip themselves. Ink moves across parchment in language you half remember. And on the wall, shelves of dreams. You step closer. One scroll pulses faintly. You reach for it. It's warm. The scroll unfurls in your hand and begins to write. Not in front of you, but behind you. A history forming in ink the moment you act. It records your bath, your market stroll, the bowl of sound, the ribbon, the clocks. This is your footnote, someone says. You turn. A girl no older than 10 stands there, barefoot, with eyes like candle flames. Most people never get to read it while it's being written, she says. They only see it when it's over. She hands you a key. Don't use it here, she says. Use it when the stars forget your name. Before you can ask what that means, she's gone. You leave the scriptory. The market has narrowed. The stalls are fewer now, more abstract. A vendor offers jars of wind. Another sells baskets of maybe. You avoid eye contact with a man claiming to deal in possible futures. You've had enough of that for tonight. Instead, you follow the scent of citrus and candle wax. It leads you to a fire pit where 3 elders sit, cloaks pulled tight, each holding a carved spoon. They gesture to a bowl of something thick and gold. You hesitate. Fear tastes like iron, one says, but memory tastes like honey, says another. Tonight, it's buff, says the third. You kneel. They hand you a spoon. It tastes like your grandmother's laughter, like that book you never returned, like the last time someone brushed your hair. You cry, but only a little. They nod. Now you're ready. For what? You ask. They don't answer. You rise again. You reach what must be the end of the market. A wide open circle, like a plaza, but there are no structures. Only stones laid in a spiral pattern, glowing faintly under moonlight. In the center, a single stone bench and a cat. The cat looks at you, blinks slowly. You sit. The wind carries sand, then quiet, then the sound of a song with no words. The stars above begin to shift again. One breaks apart, a shooting star. No, a falling truth. It lands in the center of the spiral with no sound. You approach. There, in the sand, is a small object, a mirror. You pick it up, but instead of your face, you see someone else. A version of you stayed at the bathhouse. Another who never entered the market. Another who left before the bowl sang. Each face looks back. Each one wonders which of you made the right choice. You place the mirror in your robe, not to forget, but to remember. The stars realign. The market breathes once more. And then, as easily as a dream lifts itself from the morning, the world begins to dissolve. The stalled tents ripple. The sounds drift. The smells of bread, smoke, time, laughter, all fade. You're walking now, or being walked. The ribbon around your wrist flutters, and in your other hand, you realize the vial is no longer empty. It glows faintly, not with light, with story. It's full. When your eyes open, the world has shifted again. You're no longer seated on the stone bench, nor wandering the midnight market. Instead, you're lying in a quiet courtyard somewhere on the edge of town. A circle of olive trees leaning in around you like eavesdroppers from another century. The moon overhead is large, absurdly so, and for a moment, you wonder if someone's moved it closer for dramatic effect. There's a cool breeze, scented faintly with cardamom and ash, and the sound of quiet footsteps on gravel. You don't rise yet. You listen. A woman in a dark hood is lighting candles around the garden. She hums as she walks, her tune matching something deep in your chest you didn't know had a melody. The light flickers across worn stone tiles that seem to have been etched by centuries of feet, some small, some bare, some wearing the pointed shoes that only appear in tapestries and old nightmares. You sit up slowly, rubbing your temples. The bronze bowl is still beside you. The vial of story glow is warm in your pocket, and from somewhere nearby, Someone is arguing in whispers with a turnip. Yes, a turnip. You follow the voice to a small stall nestled in the shadow of the garden's outer wall. It's covered in herbs and vegetables, but more importantly, in symbols, strange notations, part alchemical, part astrological, are scrawled onto every crate, from best roasted under a waning moon to screams in soup. You clear your throat. The merchant, a man with a beard like tangled twine and a hat that looks suspiciously like an overturned colander, looks up. You're late, he says. The rutabagas are already plotting rebellion. You nod slowly, because what else can you do? He hands you a parchment scroll. Tonight's market is different, he says. It's not for trading goods. It's for swapping truths. You open the scroll. Instead of a list, it holds a map, but not of streets, of emotions. Anger leads to curiosity. Curiosity dead ends at humility. Pride loops endlessly back to hunger. You look at the man. This is the layout of tonight's stalls. He says, don't get lost. You do, of course. Within minutes, you're standing between a cheese vendor and a masked juggler, both trying to convince a goat to recite the name of God. The goat sneezes instead. Somewhere in the distance, someone shouts, "That counts." You duck under a canopy embroidered with stars and find yourself in a tent of mirrors. Not just reflections, versions. One shows you dressed as a medieval falconer. Another is a merchant selling dyed silks. A third is a monk, laughing over a wine barrel. You pass by them all, careful not to linger. Historians still debate whether these visions were meant to instruct, tempt, or merely mock. A bell rings somewhere, 3 notes. Off-key, it doesn't sound official. You follow the noise until you reach the very center of this new garden market. There, a tall wooden contraption stands, part loom, part clock, part something else entirely. An elderly woman stands beside it, tossing thread into the air. The threads never fall. Instead, they float, twining themselves through the gears, forming patterns you don't recognize. What is this? You ask. Truth weavers, she says. They show what's been missed. Missed by whom? She shrugs. Anyone who thought seeing was the same as understanding. The threads begin to glow. Images form between the spokes, brief flashes. A knight burying a crown in mud. A child teaching a rooster to dance. A scroll tossed into fire, then pulled back by an unseen hand. You see yourself, not now, but earlier at the bath, at the mirror, at the moment you almost left. You step back, the loom quiets, the woman smiles. It's different for everyone, but it always tells the truth. You thank her and step away, heart pounding gently, not fear. Not even awe, just a kind of reverence. Like when thunder rolls and you realize the sky isn't just air, it's power. Past the loom, the garden opens into a space with shallow pools reflecting the sky. You kneel beside one. Your reflection is tired, older, wiser. You're not sure, but something behind your eyes has changed. A girl, perhaps the same one from the scriptory, sits beside you. She's drawing spirals in the water. What's next? You ask her. She dips her fingers into the pool. The ripples dance across the stars. We don't tell stories to remember the past, she says. We tell them to survive the present. You nod. She vanishes. The vial in your robe vibrates faintly. You pull it out. The glow inside is stronger now. and for the first time, it hums. You hold it up to the moonlight and watch as shadows inside shift into shapes, a face, a path, a doorway. You recognize them all. You rise. The garden market is fading now, like fog lifting off a river. Stalls vanish, candles extinguish themselves. Even the air begins to smell like a memory. You walk slowly through it all, not rushing. Every step feels like a chapter closing. You exit through an archway that wasn't there before. On the other side is your room, your actual room, the one with the flickering lamp, the cold tea, the cat still asleep under your chair. You set the bowl down on the table, place the vial next to it. The cat stirs, opens one eye, then closes it again, as if to say, "Good, you brought it back." You lie down, close your eyes, but just before sleep takes you, a whisper returns. Next time, it says, "Bring questions." You smile. You will. You don't wake up. Not exactly. You drift forward. The air has shifted again, heavy with the scent of spent candles, brass polish, and something sweet, like roasted chestnuts left too long near coals. When you open your eyes, the light is a low, golden kind of amber, flickering not from torches this time, but from paper lanterns strung overhead in what looks like a narrow alley behind the market. You sit up, the paving stones cold beneath you, and realize you're surrounded by shadows that are all moving slightly, not threatening, just present, like memories that never quite left. The long table runs down the alley, and on it, clocks, dozens, maybe hundreds, all ticking, none in sync. Some are water clocks, dripping with rhythmic stubbornness. Some are candle clocks, wax melting into carved trays. A few are simple sundials, useless in the lamplight, but present anyway, perhaps out of dignity. At the head of the table sits a man with a single enormous hourglass. He flips it, says nothing. You join him. This is the hour market. No goods, no services, just moments, treated like salt. You can give a memory, he says, for a minute of someone else's life. You blink. Why would anyone want that? He shrugs. Why do you want dreams? One woman offers her first kiss in exchange for 10 minutes of her grandmother's wedding. Another trades her best joke for 5 minutes of a storm she's never seen. A third gives up the exact moment her daughter was born for a moment yet to come. You don't participate, you just watch, but the longer you stay, the more tempted you feel. There's something haunting about it all. Time, uncoiled in rue wrapped by hands too human for precision. A historian approaches you. Her robe is a patchwork of fabric dyed with ink, literal pieces of scrolls sewn together. She asks, "Do you know what hour you're in?" You shake your head. "Few do," she replies, "but this alley is for the ones who've stepped out of theirs." Before you can reply, she's gone, leaving behind a single parchment square. On it, one word, pause. You tuck it into your sleeve. Somehow, you know it will matter later. Past the alley, the market changes again. It becomes wider, airier, quieter, a cloister of sorts, half temple, half gallery. Here, people don't speak, they write. Long tables stretch across the space, each one crowded with scribes, artists, translators. Some are copying old texts with reverence. Others are sketching plants that may or may not exist. One man is arguing with a goose over the spelling of a rare herb. The goose, for its part, seems confident. You walk through carefully. A woman with ink-stained fingertips beckons you. Write something down, she says, something you've never said aloud. You hesitate, then reach for a reed pen. What you write surprises you, not because it's untrue, but because it's too true. Something simple, something private. The moment the ink dries, the parchment curls into itself and vanishes. No trace, not even ash. That's the only way we know it was real. She says. You thank her, voice quiet. Just ahead, a small stage is set. Not for drama, but for confession. One at a time, figures take the platform and read strange, beautiful sentences aloud. I once believed the moon spoke only to left-handed children. I kept a secret for 60 years, only to find it in a stranger's song. I dream in a language I've never learned, but somehow remember. None of them explain, none of them need to. You stand in the back, listening, letting the words settle into your chest like warm coins. And then it happens again. The hush, the shift, and you are somewhere else. A staircase, spiraling downward, stone walls close and cool. Your hand finds a torch. Unlit, you touch it, and the flame breathes into life as if expecting you. Down, down, into the belly of something older than fear. The air here is different. Wet, but not foul. The kind of wet that moss understands. You hear drips, steady, sacred. The tunnel ends in a round chamber where water pools in a perfect circle. In the center, a plinth. On the plinth, a crown. It is not gold, not jeweled, just simple, heavy, and worn. A crown for thought, not spectacle. You approach. A voice, not human, fills the chamber. Name the price of knowing. You stop, not because you're afraid, because suddenly, you do know. The price is forgetting something else. The chamber dims. You walk backward, slowly, leaving the crown untouched. It's not time. Back up the stairs. You return to the cloister. The goose looks at you again, nods once, no explanation. You exit the courtyard and find yourself beneath an arch lined with wind chimes that never stop ringing. Soft, constant, reassuring. The market is closing now. You hear stall doors creaking shut, laughter growing softer, boots on stone, and you realize you've not bought a thing, but you've traded. You've given minutes of worry for moments of wonder, doubts for echoes, sleep for something quieter. As you walk back to your bedroll, the parchment square in your sleeve warms gently. You pull it out. The word pause is gone. In its place, continue. You smile and do. You're certain you closed your eyes, but when you open them again, you're no longer in your bedroll. You're seated on a low wooden stool with 3 legs, one of them just a bit too short, wobbling under your weight. The smell that hits first is salt. Salt and old apples, hot leather, and copper. The market is still alive, but it has changed. Again, this time, it feels more enclosed, more secret. You're in a covered lane with walls made of stitched hides and thin wood, where torches flicker low behind red cloth, casting everything in the shade of candle wax and dried blood. A merchant in a fur-lined robe leans toward you. His beard is braided with tiny bells, and every time he breathes, they chime like a wind just out of reach. You're early, he says, smiling, or late, but time doesn't matter in the red corridor. You glance behind you, no clear entrance, just the sense that you walked in here for a reason you've already forgotten. He gestures toward his table, but there's nothing on it. Do you know what we sell here? He asks. You shrug, regrets. He pulls out a small jar. Inside, something glows faintly blue. This one's a man who wished he'd never taught his brother to sail. Another, green and trembling. This is a woman who said yes when she meant run. He taps a third, still sealed, hasn't been opened since the siege of Acre. You want to ask how that's possible, but the words stay stuck in your throat. He seems to understand. No one trades here unless they must. He says gently, you stand to go, but he raises one hand. Take one, no charge, but choose carefully. You can't uncarry someone else's regret. You reach for the smallest one, pale, barely glowing. It hums like a mosquito's breath. He nods, satisfied. That one's light might even teach you something. You walk on. The corridor opens into a tented square, each canopy a different color, stitched together in some accidental rainbow of trade. Beneath one, a group of children are laughing around a pile of cracked pots. A man is showing them how to mend pottery with melted tin. Not gold, he says. Gold teaches pride, tin teaches patience. One girl drops hers. It breaks clean in half. She shrugs and begins again. You pause. A tall figure approaches. No visible face. Just folds of deep indigo and saffron, and a scent like fennel and old manuscripts. The figure doesn't speak, but holds out a wooden tablet. On it, a map, but not of land, of memory. This, the figure finally says in a low, rich tone, is the layout of the forgotten stalls. You blink. The market shifts each night. They continue. Some corners vanish for centuries. Others arrive early. You trace the lines on the map. Names appear. Some you've seen. Some you haven't yet. The Alley of Sighs. Inkless Quarters. The Clockmaker's Grave. Market of Lost Tongues. You try to ask where you are now, but the figure has already walked away, dissolving into the crowd like dust into dusk. You move again, not walking now, but carried by the tide of quiet commerce. In this part of the market, no one speaks. They hum. Every stall has a note, a pitch, a resonance. People match their hum to the goods they need. You find yourself humming softly, something close to B-flat. A baker hands you a round of flatbread, wrapped in cloth. You didn't pay. You didn't ask. You just matched. Ahead, a cluster of musicians stand in a circle. One plays a hurdy-gurdy, another a bone flute, and a third strikes stones that chime like glass. But they're not performing. They're tuning to the crowd. Each note sharpens the shape of the lane. When someone walks off key, a door closes. When someone hits harmony, a tent opens. You hear a deep sea from your right, and a nearby door flutters open. Inside, a woman is painting constellations onto raw silk. She doesn't look up, just says, "Don't forget the ones you can't see." The cloth smells of myrrh and midnight. As you leave, someone bumps your shoulder gently. You turn, but it's only a boy, face painted in ash, offering you a cracked mirror. You take it. He vanishes. The mirror doesn't reflect your face. It reflects you yesterday. You put it in your satchel. A cat crosses your path next, black with one white paw. It looks up at you, sneezes, and keeps walking. Someone nearby whispers, "That's the tax collector." You don't ask for clarification. You walk now with more intention, the bread in your hand still warm, the jar of regret nestled in your pocket, the map burned gently into your thoughts. The air grows quieter, not heavier, but more watchful, like the market knows you've stayed too long, or that you're close to something meant to stay hidden. At the end of the path, there's a curtain, not cloth, but fog, thin, silver gray, and moving like breath. You step through, and just like that, the market disappears. No farewell, no sign, just you, standing in a wide, moonlit field of tall grass. A single tent in the middle, lantern lit. You approach. Inside, a woman waits. She looks like a dozen other people you've seen tonight, scribe's fingers, trader's eyes, traveler's posture. She nods to you once. Welcome to the end of the market, she says. Did I buy anything? You ask. She smiles. You traded. Then, she opens her hand. Inside, the parchment square. The word on it has changed again. It now reads, remember. You take it and walk into the dark. You don't walk long before realizing you're no longer on any road. Not even a goat path. Just open field, lit only by stars, wrapped in the hush of midnight. Every blade of grass bends slightly in the same direction, as though something just passed before you, a breeze, a memory, a very old truth making its way home. In your hand, the parchment square glows faintly. Just one word. Remember. You don't know what yet. A sound reaches you, metal on stone, faint and rhythmic. You follow it, not because you mean to, but because your feet seem to understand something your mind hasn't caught up to. The sound grows louder. Scrape, pause, scrape, pause, until at last you reach the edge of a circle of trees, low and crooked, grown in spirals, as though the forest itself is listening to an old, circular song. Inside the rain, a forge, but not the kind you know from history books. No roaring fires, no sparks flying like battle cries. This forge is quiet. The embers glow like coals in a sleeping dragon's breath. The blacksmith is old, perhaps older than any one person has a right to be, wrapped in wool the color of ash, face like a map of forgotten rivers. He's working on something small, something delicate. He doesn't look up, just says, "Did you bring it?" You hold out the parchment. He doesn't take it, just nods. Good, we begin. Then, what are we making? You ask. He lifts a pair of long, iron tongs and carefully extracts what looks like a nail. No, not a nail, a stylus. We're writing, he says, but not with ink. He dips the stylus into a bowl of black sand. This is time, ground from the edges of midnight. And then, he gestures for you to step forward. The anvil isn't metal, it's stone, carved in spirals and notches, like a language never meant to be spoken aloud. He hands you the stylus. Write what you think you've learned, he says. You hesitate, not because you have nothing to say, but because you're not sure what counts as truth anymore. Still, you place the stylus down and begin to write. You don't write words, you write curves, shapes, pauses. Your hand moves without you telling it what to do, like something inside you is guiding the motion. When you finish, the sand glows for a moment, then stills. He nods. Now, he says, you carry it. He lifts a piece of thin, hammered bronze, wraps your script in it, then seals it with a thread of black linen around your neck, he says, handing it to you, not for protection, for memory. You tie it. The bronze is cool, but it doesn't weigh you down. In fact, you feel lighter. You should go, the blacksmith says, before the night forgets you. You thank him, and just like that, he vanishes. No puff of smoke, no shimmer, just gone. You're in a narrow alley again. Cobblestones beneath your feet, a flickering oil lamp ahead, the sound of clinking cups and laughter. You step out, you're back in the market, but different. This time, you're seeing the parts behind the stalls, the makeshift kitchens, the hammocks hung between crates, the clusters of apprentices rolling wax seals or counting bones. This isn't just a market, it's a village made of trade and shadows. A woman waves you over. Her stall has no goods, just a single book. You've come far, she says, turning the page. The words glow briefly, then vanish. She looks up. This book doesn't tell the future. It tells the future you already carry. You frown. She smiles. The market doesn't just sell things. It shows things, and sometimes the price is attention. She closes the book and hands it to you. The cover reads only, "Midnight." You tuck it into your robe. At the edge of the square, a new sound rises, a bell, soft, like wind chimes over water. People begin to gather, some in silence, others humming. You follow. A stage rises slowly from the ground, wooden planks fitting together as if remembering where they once belonged. On it, a jester appears, but his bells are missing, and his hat is too small. He's holding a mirror instead of a baton. "I won't entertain you," he says, looking at the crowd. "I'll reflect you." And he does. In silence, he turns the mirror toward each person, and they don't see themselves, not exactly. They see the versions of themselves that once wandered through this market. One person sobs quietly, another laughs without sound, one kneels. When he reaches you, the mirror does not reflect. Instead, it fogs. You reach toward it, and a phrase appears in the mist. "You are not finished yet." Then the stage collapses, the jester bows, and the crowd disperses as if nothing happened. You stand for a while, unsure of what comes next, until a voice behind you whispers, "This is where it ends." You turn. It's the parchment merchant from earlier. Beard still braided, bells now silent. "Why did I come here?" you ask. He doesn't answer. Instead, he hands you a second jar. This one is filled with golden light, liquid and slow, like syrup in winter. "This is someone else's memory," he says, "but they left it behind. Maybe it was meant for you." You take it, and in the distance, the stars begin to fade. A rooster crows. Dawn is near. The stalls are being closed. Fabrics folded, flames extinguished. A child wraps a scarf around a cat and lifts it into a sack. You stand there, still holding the jar, still wearing the bronze, still wondering, and just as the first sliver of sun peeks over the far tower, someone places a coin in your hand. No one around, but etched into the coin, the same word from your parchment. Remember, you do. And finally, for the first time since the night began, you let yourself smile. The market is gone. No, not gone, transformed. By dawn's hush, everything has folded inward like a well-kept secret. The cobbled square is empty now, save for fading footprints and one crooked bench still warm from someone who sat there too long. The smell of roasted chestnuts lingers in the air, oddly stronger than it was at midnight. You blink, the parchment square is gone. So is the jar of memory. But the coin is still there, pressed into your palm like a truth you can't unlearn. You begin walking, not because you know where to go, but because the city seems to pull you with a thread so thin you only feel it when you resist. You pass closed shutters, cats winding through shadow, laundry stiff with morning dew, and the faint echo of someone singing a lullaby, hours too late or years too early. Then, faint laughter, unfamiliar but familiar. You round a corner and find a girl seated alone on a fountain rim, dipping her toes into the water. She's humming a slow tune, almost circular, as if the melody loops into itself like a snake swallowing its tail. She looks up. Did you trade for anything? You hesitate. I didn't buy anything. She tilts her head. That's not what I asked. You realize she's not playing a riddle. The market wasn't about money. It was about exchange, curiosity for direction, memory for insight, hesitation for possibility. I left something, you say. She nods, almost solemn. Then something is coming back. She stands, brushes her tunic, a soft olive green, simple but hand-dyed, and gestures you forward. It's time for the street of unsaid things. That's not a name, that's a feeling, but you follow her anyway. You walk in silence, not awkward, but necessary. This part of town isn't mapped. It's remembered. Walls covered in soot streaks, names half carved and weathered down. You see symbols on doors, faded handprints, sprigs of time, braided cords, wards, maybe, promises. You stop in front of a door that looks like it forgot how to close. It creaks open. Inside, shelves, not of goods, but of moments. Folded scarves that still smell of arguments, shoes that remember the sound of running, bits of wax with teeth marks, a wooden spoon broken in two. People bring things here when they don't have words. The girl says softly. You pick up a torn glove. It feels like guilt. A cracked bowl feels like love, slightly spoiled. She hands you a mirror, small, framed in brass. You can't see yourself in this. She whispers, only who you were when you first stopped being sure. You don't look into it. You tuck it away. The next room has a table. 3 chairs, one empty, one occupied, one facing away. The woman at the table stirs tea that doesn't steam. She doesn't speak. The girl says, "This is where people say what they never said." You wait. The woman at the table sighs, then begins to hum the same tune the girl had earlier. You close your eyes. A memory returns, not yours, but close. A hallway, a door half open, the scent of firewood and guilt, and someone whispering, "I wish I hadn't said that." And then, silence. When you open your eyes, the woman is gone. The tea is still there. Steam rising now. You sip it. It tastes like letters never sent. You don't ask the girl who she is. It's not that kind of knowing. She doesn't guide you back. She simply nods toward a shaft of early morning light, and you understand it's time to leave. Outside, the sun is peeking over the spires, gilding everything with that golden softness that only lasts a moment, like an apology or a first laugh after tears. You return to the edge of the city, where someone waits, a man this time, wrapped in deep blue, leaning on a cart that sells nothing. You lasted longer than most. He says. You nod, unsure what else to offer. He gestures at the city. You didn't come for sleep. You know. You blink. What did I come for? He smiles, eyes soft as worn parchment. To forget safely, and then to remember slowly. You look back. The market is nowhere to be seen. No stalls, no bells, no colors. Only a breeze carrying spices and a strange, sweet echo of your own breath. You walk away, the coin still in your palm, the bronze pendant now warm against your chest, and the feeling that something ancient, not just learned, but felt, is traveling with you now, wrapped around your rib cage like a promise. You will dream of this place. You may even try to return, but no one does, because the market isn't a place on a map. It's a moment, and you can't walk back into a moment. Only wait for the next one to arrive. The road out of town doesn't begin, it unravels. A gentle taper of cobblestones gives way to packed earth, dew soft and dimpled by cartwheel ghosts. You move slowly now, not from fatigue, but from reverence. Something about the market, its impossibility, its truth cloaked in absurdity, still hums along your skin. The sun creeps higher, igniting the top of distant thatched roofs like they're whispering thanks for surviving the night. You pass an orchard, ancient and leaning, apples not quite ripe hang like half-forgotten promises. One falls with a thud. No wind, no bird, just timing. You don't pick it up. Some knowledge, you've come to understand, isn't yours to catch. A narrow bridge appears, wooden, crooked. You pause. Beneath it, water runs not in a stream, but in reverse. Upward, tiny fish shimmer as they slide against the current of logic itself. And standing in the middle of the bridge is a man with a lantern. Unlit, it's morning. Do you remember what you traded? He asks, not with menace, but with genuine concern. You hesitate. What did you trade? A name, a question, a dream you didn't know was missing. You answer slowly, a piece of hesitation. The man nods. A fair price. Few offer that willingly. He steps aside, and you cross the bridge. As your foot hits the midpoint, the wood beneath you hums, not a creak, but a tone, a note in the key of yes. On the other side, the world has softened. There are fewer walls, more sky, fewer signs, more paths. Ahead, a woman weaving baskets from shadows, not metaphorically, actual strands of darkness plucked from the edge of dawn. She hums, not a tune, but a feeling. When she sees you, she lifts her chin and offers a single strand. You weave it into your sleeve without knowing why. It stays, and then you see it. The final stall. No canopy, no candles, just a book, open, floating above a carved stone pedestal that glows faintly from within, like someone trapped the first hour of morning and taught it how to wait. You step closer. The book has no pages, not blank but translucent. They shimmer with motion, like scenes unfolding inside a soap bubble, each one sliding over the next. You look, and what you see isn't your past. It's someone else's dream of your past. Moments you forgot, but better, sharper, kinder. You see the you that might have been if you'd spoken up in that hallway. If you'd taken that wrong turn. If you hadn't listened to that fear shaped like reason. And then the book asks, silently, do you want this version? Not to replace, but to remember. You breathe in, say nothing, and the book closes itself. Not shut, just paused. The stone glows warmer. A tiny indentation appears, just the size of your bronze coin. You place it in, not as payment, as permission. The book accepts it, the pedestal dims, and now, there is no more stall. Only you, and the feeling that maybe, just maybe, memory isn't about holding on, but allowing yourself to feel the echo long enough that you don't need to keep returning. The path ahead is simpler now. No curves, no riddles, a plain road, but your steps aren't plain. They carry something new, not knowledge, not answers, but grace. You step lightly, and the world welcomes your weight. The sun now edges past the hills. A new day, for a different version of you. One that carries the night gently, like a lantern, still unlit but warm. You breathe, and somewhere behind you, the market exhales and smiles. The first thing you notice is that the silence has changed. It isn't absence, it's memory waiting. A hush that holds you not with fear, but with understanding. You walk the road and realize there's no crowd, no noise, and yet you feel surrounded by stories still hanging in the air. Somewhere, a rooster crows not out of habit, but as punctuation. The sentence of the night is over. You're the final word. As the horizon glows gold, you see the outline of a hill ahead. You climb slowly, your robe damp from morning mist, your legs light despite the weight of the unseen. Near the top, there's a single tree, withered but standing, curved by wind and wisdom. At its base, a young girl sits with a bowl of water, watching you. Her hair is braided with tiny bones, bird, mouse, unknown, and her eyes are older than the moon. She doesn't speak, but she gestures for you to sit. You do. She dips her fingers into the bowl, stirs it once clockwise. The water swirls, but doesn't ripple. It forms shapes, not reflections, not images, but impressions. You see the market, but smaller, contained. You see yourself, trading laughter for patience. You see the baker slipping herbs into your bread that made you braver for exactly 10 minutes. You see the scholar frowning not because he was angry, but because he was proud and didn't know how to say so. You see the guard who led you through the gate with a wink that said, "Don't tell anyone I still believe in magic." Then she stirs the bowl again, and the images vanish. All that remains is your face. You look tired, but not old, not lost, just used, like a good map. She tips the bowl toward the roots of the tree, and the water seeps in without a sound. A gift, perhaps, or a return. You rise. She stays. You walk to the peak and see the sea again. The coast curves like a secret kept too long. The wind carries the scent of fig and firewood. You take it in like language, like a word you've never heard but always understood. And then, something strange. A shadow beside you, not your own. You turn. It's the vendor, the one who gave you bread. She's not smiling now. She's crying, but the tears are not sad. She reaches out and places something in your palm. It's not a coin, it's a key. No explanation, just a nod and a question. Do you remember what it opens? You shake your head. She shrugs. Then you're ready, and she leaves. You hold the key. It's heavy, cool, and slightly warm at the same time. And you know, without knowing, where it fits. Down the hill, past the fig orchard, there's a stone gate you hadn't noticed before. It doesn't glow, it doesn't invite, it simply exists. You walk it, place the key. It turns without resistance. The door opens, not with sound, but with the absence of doubt. Inside is nothing, not darkness, not light, just a space that waits for what you bring into it. So you step in, and everything blinks. The market vanishes. The girl, the bowl, the road, even the night. You're in your bed, but your hands smell like fig and wax. There's sand between your toes, and in your fist, still closed from sleep, the faintest trace of a bronze coin. You smile, not because you understand, but because you don't need to. That's the secret. The market never needed to be found, only remembered, and remembered gently. As you turn to sleep again, your thoughts drift, not toward the answers, but toward the questions that made you softer. And perhaps that's the greatest treasure, not what the market gave you, but what it helped you give yourself. You don't remember when the laughter started, only that it never seemed to stop. It bubbled out from between stalls, slipped down alleyways like steam, and bounced off wooden shutters like some ancient spell of joy. You're standing, no, wobbling, just inside a crooked little tent that bills itself as Master Tillo's traveling emporium of probable miracles. A hand-painted sign above the entrance is held aloft by a rooster who looks just as skeptical as you feel. The inside, well, it's nothing like you expect. There's a table where an old man with one eye and 7 rings on his fingers whispers to a cabbage. The cabbage, it seems, whispers back. It knows things. He insists without looking at you. Grew up in a monastery. Don't judge its leaves. You nod solemnly. You wouldn't dare. Next to him, a woman in a patched velvet cloak flips copper coins into a spinning bowl. As each coin lands, she utters a phrase, some in Latin, others in languages you can't identify. At first, you think she's fortune-telling, but then you realize she's cooking. Every phrase adjusts the heat, or the flavor, or the texture. You can't quite tell. When she offers you a spoonful of something steaming, your tongue sings and weeps at the same time. And this is just one corner of the market. As you step back outside, the clock in the bell tower across the square strikes one long, solemn chime that shivers through the air like a warning or an invitation. The crowd shifts. A dozen oil lamps suddenly go out in unison. Shadows gather, not ominously, but like loyal pets. And now, a different kind of trade begins. Under the cover of night, the back market opens. This isn't the black market. That's for poisons, secrets, and unpaid taxes. No, the back market is something else entirely. It's where knowledge is exchanged, not for coin, but for memory. A woman in a headdress shaped like a crescent moon asks for your first dream in exchange for a glowing pendant. Just a dream, she coos, one you're not using anymore. You hesitate, you decline. She nods, not disappointed, just marking you down in her mind as someone still holding on to things. Further down, a hunched man with a crooked spine has scrolls labeled with dates from the future. Market trends, he explains. 5 kings from now. You won't care, but your descendants might. He accepts a riddle as payment. You don't have one ready, but the child next to you does. She whispers it in his ear. He hands you the scroll anyway. Grinning, good trade, he says. She's sharper than you. Everything in the back market has its price, but none of it is currency. A lock of hair might buy you a map to a city that doesn't exist yet. A promise broken in youth might earn you a weatherproof cloak. One man offers his last tear to purchase a book bound in candle smoke. You wonder what you would trade. What piece of yourself is worth what someone else knows? You wander deeper. There's a tent made entirely of stitched together prayers. You feel them rustling above you, whispered in every tone. Inside sits a scribe who's writing a story backwards, starting from the ending and unraveling toward the beginning. If you want something to last, she tells you without looking up, you must know how it ends before it begins. Her ink smells of burnt lavender and regret. You nod, not because you understand, but because it feels like the respectful thing to do. A small monkey with spectacles adjusts a scroll beside her and hands you a piece of dried plum. You eat it without hesitation. It tastes like a memory you didn't know you had, your grandmother's laugh. The sound of rain on a tin roof, a hand squeezing yours before you let go. Outside the tent, a procession moves slowly through the square. Not a parade, no music, no banners, but a quiet line of cloaked figures, each carrying a single object on a velvet cushion. One holds an egg made of obsidian, another, a cracked compass pointing downward. A third holds a mirror that reflects nothing but the person's thoughts. You watch as a boy approaches, trembling, and offers his shadow to the man with the mirror. The trade is silent. The boy leaves lighter. You're not sure if that's good. The air grows colder now, not with weather, but with something older than weather. A sense of time thinning. You feel it in your fingertips, in the edges of your thoughts. You're not in the past anymore, or the present. You're somewhere in between, a space where the rules get fuzzy. A vendor gestures you into a stall with no sign, just a curtain of black feathers. Inside, it's warmer and lit by the soft glow of moss growing along the walls. The vendor, her face painted with stars, hands you a deck of cards. Not for fortune, she says, for memory. You draw one, a picture of a young girl with a crown made of thorns. It's you, or it was, or it will be. She smiles. Keep it, but only if you promise to forget what it means. You pocket the card, unsure what you've just accepted. As you step outside, the clock strikes 2. You feel the weight of the night now. Not heavy, exactly, just full. Like a satchel loaded with all the things you never meant to carry but kept anyway. Around you, the market begins to fold in on itself. Stalls vanish, lights blink out, vendors pack up not with haste, but with reverence, as if they've never really needed to be here at all. One by one, they disappear. You're left in the square, now empty except for a single stool and a kettle still steaming. You sit, you pour a cup, the tea tastes of mint in something older, something like dust and stars. You look up, the sky is clearing, the stars blink gently above, patient as always, and then you notice, your hands are glowing, just faintly, like they've touched something too old to explain. You smile and sip. The market may be gone, but it's not forgotten. You rise from the stool slowly, not because you're tired, but because the world around you demands reverence. The square, which just an hour ago pulsed with candlelight and cunning trades, is now an empty canvas of cobblestone and lingering magic. Each footstep you take feels measured, like the ground is remembering your path in real time. Even the wind is quieter now. As if listening, you turn down a narrow alley that didn't exist before, or perhaps you simply never noticed it. Its walls are made of stacked crates, old barrels, and draped linens. On one side, an ivy-covered arch gives way to a space dimly lit by amber lanterns swaying like sleepy thoughts. At the center is a single table, and behind it, a man carves wood with a knife no bigger than your thumb. He doesn't speak as you approach. Instead, he gestures to the stools around the table. You sit. He continues carving. What he's making isn't clear yet. Could be a spoon, could be a saint, could be a lie made real by faith and bark. On the table are several completed pieces, tiny figurines, each note taller than a candle stub. You pick one up, a knight with no sword, only a book. The detail is exquisite, right down to the lines on the knight's boots. The carver glances at you. Everyone chooses their guard differently. He murmurs. You ask, softly, what this place is. The man shrugs. A sanctuary. If you need one, a mirror. If you're ready, you ask what that means. But he simply sets down the wood and begins to hum. It's not a melody you recognize, but it burrows into your ribs like something familiar. A woman enters from behind a curtain, holding a ceramic bowl filled with steaming, herbal-scented water. She places it on the table, and the carver begins to wash his hands slowly. You realize this is a ritual, not just of cleanliness, but of remembrance. The scent, the hum, the motion, it pulls something out of you. A memory, a feeling. You're not sure, but it's real. From behind you comes the sound of a child laughing. You turn. There's no one there. You turn back. The figurine is now a cat. You didn't see him switch it, but you're certain it was once the knight. The carver raises an eyebrow, and you suddenly understand. What you hold changes based on who you are in that moment. You leave the figurine on the table and stand. The alley stretches differently now, longer, deeper, more shadowed. You walk. Shadows peel away to reveal a large tent shaped like a seashell, shimmering faintly under a net of woven stars. You push aside the flap and step in. Inside is a map room, but not of places, of people. Walls lined with portraits, some painted, some stitched, some drawn in chalk on black stone. Beneath each face, a single line. Saw the wind once, spoke to wolves twice, forgot nothing. The cartographer sits in the center, using a needle to draw onto skin, not her own, but leather stretched across a frame. It's a person's life, woven in ink and intuition. She looks up. You're here to be remembered. Then, you blink. She smiles. Too soon. You're still writing. You back out slowly, heart full and unsteady. Outside, the stars blink faster. You haven't spoken in some time, not because there's no one to talk to, but because words have started to feel too heavy, too imprecise for the texture of what this place has become. The market is quieter now, not empty, but quieter. The bells no longer chime. The laughter is further away. Only the warm hum of midnight life remains, like the exhale of a city trying not to wake itself. You follow a sound now, not music, but water, dripping slowly, a pattern. You walk through cloth awnings that shimmer with oil patterns, past crates filled with fennel and dried citrus, past a woman stirring rose petals into a silver pot with a feather. She does not look up. You do not ask. The sound grows louder. At the end of a hallway made of steam and silk, you find it, a bathhouse. It's not grand, not tiled in marble or dripping with gold like stories sometimes promise. It's worn smooth by centuries. Built of stone and low-light, lanterns float in metal cages above the pools, flickering against the steam like whispers clinging to the ceiling. You pause at the doorway. A boy sits on a stool beside a copper basin, chewing on a licorice root. He raises one eyebrow, as if to say, "You look like you need it." You nod, because you do. He hands you a towel. Rough linen, smells faintly of sage. You step inside. The warmth hits your skin like memory. A kindness so immediate you almost forget you're fully clothed. A woman in a saffron wrap waves vaguely at a bench. You place your things there, nervous. Most bathers look relaxed, lying on stone benches or lowering themselves into the pools. But then you realize something. It's co-ed. A moment of awkwardness bubbles up, and it seems the moment notices you. A matron, regal and wide-shouldered, approaches with purpose. She holds a ladle in one hand, a scroll in the other. Her gaze pins you in place. Ptolemaic tax policy, she says firmly. You blink, she does not. What is your opinion on grain redistribution as enacted by the second Cleopatra? You mumble something about the Nile. She nods slowly as if considering whether you are worth the water. Then she pours a ladle over your head, solemnly. Very well, you may soak. You wade in. The water is warmer than expected. Softer, even, not oily, just dense, like it remembers the skin it touches. Around you, conversations drift like perfume. Someone debates the medicinal use of moss. Another describes a dream involving a staircase that never ends and a goose that talks in riddles. You lean your head back, eyes closed, until you feel it. Gone, your towel. You sit up with a splash, looking around wildly. It's not on the bench. It's not beside the pool. It is, in fact, nowhere. Your suspicion is confirmed when you hear giggling from behind a stone column. A group of children, wire children in the bathhouse, scatter as a bundle of linen sails through the steam. You give chase, slipping slightly, only to find yourself face to face with the matron again. She squints. Were you not just arguing about infrastructure in Memphis? She asks. You shake your head, water dripping from your ears. She sighs. Typical of this generation, you return to the pool. Damp, flustered, somehow wiser. Later, wrapped in someone else's towel, you wander through the back of the bathhouse, where a corridor twists like a question no one dares answer. At the end is a door, wooden, simple, unlocked. You push it open. Inside, a small chamber lined with jars. Terracotta, glass, bronze, each labeled in an unfamiliar script. A man stands in the center, bald and barefoot, humming to a cactus. You wait. He turns slowly. You've come to smell the truth, he says, smiling. You nod, because what else can you do? He dips a cloth into one of the jars and holds it out to you. You sniff. Memories not your own rush forward, rain on sand. The moment before a kiss. Someone saying goodbye at a dock while holding a shell. The scent is not floral, not spicy. It is narrative. These are infused moments, he explains, distilled from memory, suspended in resin, then reawakened with oil. You reach for another jar. He stops you. Only one per night, he warns. Too many and you'll forget your own name. You back away slowly. Outside, the steam has thickened. The stars no longer visible, only hinted at. You find yourself sitting on a bench near the bathhouse entrance. Towel now inexplicably returned. A cat sits beside you, licking its paw like it's heard too much wisdom for one night. A passing bather hands you a small parcel wrapped in leaves. for the dreams. They whisper. You open it later. It's full of dried figs and a note. Don't look for meaning. Let it find you. You smile, because you already have. You sit again, this time near a quiet fountain at the edge of the market. Your fingers brushing the cool rim of the worn stone basin. The air has shifted. Less of the rich scent of honeyed almonds and more of damp ash and lemon leaves. A cat slinks past your ankles and doesn't bother to acknowledge you. That somehow feels fair. The torches have begun to run low, casting long shadows that stretch like fingers across cobblestones. You trace one with your eyes. It curls into an alley, and even though your feet are sore and your brain feels stretched like old parchment, you follow. The market doesn't really end here, it just changes. This is the part you weren't supposed to see. There's no music here, no laughter, just soft footsteps, whispered haggling, and the scrape of a blade being sharpened on stone. You pass a man carving something that looks like a chess piece out of bone. His hands are fast, too fast. He doesn't look up. Another corner, and a group of figures huddle beneath a sagging awning made of stitched-together cloaks. They pass something between them, tiny and dark, glinting dully. Coins, maybe, maybe not. You catch the scent of iron and old parchment. You're about to ask what they're trading when one of them turns. His eyes meet yours, not with surprise, but with calculation. You move on. It's not frightening, exactly, just private. This part of the market isn't meant for you, but it isn't hostile either. Like a dream you weren't invited to but somehow stumbled into anyway. A low whistle floats through the air, then another. Answering it, you glance up and see a pair of children, identical twins. Barefoot and wide-eyed, perched on opposite rooftops, tossing a small woven ball between them. One of them catches it, holds it up to the moonlight, and nods. Then they vanish behind the chimney. You think about asking someone what that was about, but there's no one left to ask. You're alone again, or you thought you were. A gentle rustle behind you. A woman steps out of the shadows, her head wrapped in a saffron scarf, her robe dyed indigo and patterned with the stars. In her arms, a bundle wrapped in velvet. You look like someone who hears things. She says, you blink. She doesn't elaborate. She lifts the bundle slightly. Would you carry this to the fountain? Her tone is polite but final. You nod, because what else do you do? And she places it in your arms. It's heavier than expected, warm, somehow. You glance down. It's not a baby. It's not an animal. It's a box, small, made of cedar wood, banded with copper, sealed with wax. The seal is broken. Whatever was meant to be hidden inside no longer is, or perhaps never was. You walk slowly back to the fountain. When you reach it, the water has stopped. It's no longer flowing, just a mirror now, reflecting the market behind you. Though oddly, there are things in the reflection that aren't there when you turn to look. A man leading a goat, a woman dancing slowly with a tambourine, a figure with no face. You stare, trying to reconcile the image with the soundless quiet around you. You've done well, the woman says behind you. She's holding a copper ladle now. She dips it into the reflection, not the water, and lifts it to your lips. You're thirsty, but not for water. You hesitate, but drink. It tastes like memory and citrus and something so old it has no name. Your skin tingles, your spine lengthens, not literally, but it feels that way, as though you've grown taller. not in height, but in understanding. The market never ends, she says. It just moves in circles. Like time, like thought, she turns and vanishes into the dark without another word. You sit beside the fountain, the box still in your lap. A small crack runs along one side now. Not broken, just vulnerable. Like everything else, a gentle clatter draws your gaze to your left. A young man is setting up a table of strange mechanical trinkets, wooden gears, spinning globes, copper dials. He smiles at you, tilts his head, and gestures you over. You want to see something that shouldn't work but does. You nod. He winds a key on one of the small devices. It clicks, whirs, opens slowly to reveal a glass orb within, glowing faintly. This, he says, is what they used to time moonlit harvests. Not official, not royal, just farmers, but they were almost always right. He pauses. Sometimes, more than the priests. You raise an eyebrow. Historians still argue about it. He chuckles. Some say it's a myth. Others say these markets were the real universities. He leans in. The truth. Both might be wrong. You thank him. He nods like it's nothing. Like every midnight stranger gives away half of time itself before breakfast. Your journey winds back toward the main square. The lanterns there are flickering out one by one, like fireflies tired of pretending to be stars. The vendors are gone, the dancers are sleeping, the storytellers are silent, but something has changed. The square is now etched in chalk. Circles, sigils, notes in languages you almost understand. They weren't there before. Or maybe you just weren't ready to see them. You crouch down and trace one with your fingertip. It hums faintly, not magic exactly, but memory, the echo of 1,000 market nights repeating themselves over centuries. Behind you, someone exhales softly. You turn. It's the boy from the trinket table. He's older now, or maybe not. Time here doesn't seem to play fair. When the market goes quiet, he says, you start to hear what it remembers. You nod slowly. What does it remember? He tilts his head, everything it's not allowed to say. Then he walks away. You're alone again, but you're not lonely. Above, the stars are shifting, no longer random, but purposeful. They trace patterns across the sky that mirror the chalk on the ground. You realize someone drew the sky below your feet, or maybe someone built the sky to match the market. You lie back on the warm cobblestones. Let the last lantern flicker. Let the silence wrap around you like a borrowed robe. And from somewhere distant, but not far, a bell tolls softly. Midnight again, but somehow, for the first time, it doesn't feel like the end. The market is closing, but not ending. The shutters come down like eyelids, slowly, deliberately, reluctantly, a few lanterns still below, and you find yourself walking without purpose now, not pulled by curiosity or gold or even scent, but by a strange, quiet fullness. You are no longer a guest here. You are something else, a witness, maybe. A vessel for things too odd to be spoken and too sacred to be sold. The street bends westward, toward the salt harbor where the scent of dried fish meets the perfume of crushed figs. You think of the pickpocket girl with her silver bead, the apothecary monk and his fermented lemons, the twin cobblers who argued in whispers. You remember the mad astrologer who traded charts for bread, and the blind painter who said he could smell shame. These weren't just people, they were portals. One of them told you earlier, laughing, The market ends when the first rooster lies. You thought it was nonsense, but now, nearing the edge of the stalls, you hear the faintest crow, not from a rooster, but from a boy leaning out a window, pretending. That's how it starts. A woman near you mutters. She's kneeling by a crate of grapes, her hands stained with dusk and sugar. You don't know her. She doesn't look up, but she says again, like an invocation, the rooster lies. The sun agrees, and the world forgets what it saw tonight. You want to ask what that means, but the moment feels too delicate to poke. So instead, you walk toward the docks, where fishermen have begun lighting lamps against the morning. A ship creaks quietly, its ropes twitching like nerves. A boy tosses buckets of salt water across the planks, as if washing away not dirt, but memory. The stars above you are beginning to fade, not gone, but hiding. One or two linger stubbornly. Like gossip, you follow their gaze upward and see the rooftop of the old bathhouse you visited hours ago, where you fled half-soaked from an elderly tax historian. You almost laugh out loud. Almost. You climb the crooked steps beside the warehouse, feet aching, robes dusty, heart oddly light. There's a balcony near the top, not grand but quiet, and when you step onto it, you can see the entire market like it's a living map. Trails of spice and stories still hover in the air. The torches burn low now, replaced by oil lamps and whispers. And that's when you see them, a group of robed figures gathered around a fountain. Silent, still, you can't tell if they're speaking. Maybe it's prayer, maybe it's politics, but one of them turns their head, just slightly, and looks straight at you. Not with accusation, not even invitation, just awareness, as if to say, you've been part of this longer than you know. You turn back to the sea. The water is flat now, silvered with early light. A gold glides past like punctuation. You lean against the stone rail and breathe, not deeply, not dramatically, just enough to let the moment write itself inside you. A soft knock against your ankle. You look down. It's the same cat from the beginning, the one beneath the spice stall. She meows once, then curls beside your foot like this is the ending she was always heading toward. You reach down and stroke behind her ear. She doesn't purr, she just blinks slowly, the universal feline code for, we understand each other. Below, the last vendor calls out something you can't hear. A bell rings, not sharp, not urgent, just a note. And a man carries away a wooden sign that once read, "Tonight only." You wonder how many nights it has said that. You wonder how many tomorrows it has survived. The wind shifts, a whisper on the breeze, someone laughing, someone sighing, someone starting a song with no name, and you, sleepy, sore, strangely satisfied, feel that maybe this was never about buying or learning or proving. Maybe the real secret of the market wasn't hidden in the wares or the words. Maybe the real secret is that it never really ends. Maybe, as long as someone remembers, it opens again. You stretch your arms overhead, not to greet the sun but to thank the night. Your bones ache, your thoughts buzz. You are filled and emptied at the same time, and that, perhaps, is what true stories do. The cat disappears. You don't see where she goes, but you know you'll see her again. A final gust of cool air brushes your face, bringing with it the scent of garlic and ink, of sandalwood and smoke. You close your eyes. You are not in the market anymore, not in the city. Not even in your body. adrift in the memory of the night, and the night remembers you. The market has closed, but its stories linger. You've wandered its stalls, spoken with apothecaries and cheese poets, debated shadows with shoemakers, and watched secret societies of merchants mark time with roasted chestnuts and riddles. And now, as the sky blushes with morning and your footsteps echo softer, you find yourself full, not with facts, but with feelings, with fragments of a night that somehow taught you more than any lecture hall ever could. What began as a curious stroll through flickering lamplight turned into something else entirely, a journey not just through medieval stalls, but through forgotten ways of seeing. You weren't just a visitor, you were a participant in something tender, strange, and sacred, a rhythm older than clocks and louder than coins. Here, the real currency was curiosity. The real map was instinct, and the greatest secret, that rest is not the opposite of learning, but part of it. As your breathing slows and your eyelids grow heavy, remember that not every mystery needs solving. Some are meant to be wandered through, quietly, and even now, even here, you carry that night market within you. So let the torches dim. Let the cobblestones soften into dreams. Let the vendors fade into silence, and the wind lull you past memory into something deeper. You've traveled far enough. The market will still be there tomorrow, and so will we. Thank you for listening to the entire video. Now take a deep breath, relax your body, and start getting some good sleep. Crescent Moon ZZZ.